All right.
Hi.
Okay, I just started the recording.
Great, thank you. All right, well, good day, everybody. My name is Dr. Mark Robinson. I'm the Dean for the School of Business here at Washington University of Science and Technology. Welcome to our Career Talk podcast sponsored by our school. And today we have the honor and privilege of meeting with and speaking to Lori Crever. And Lori is the author of a new book titled Protege Power, a roadmap for mentorship. And you may be able to see the book over one of my shoulders there. I'm going through it. It's a great book. It's got a great glossary of terms, lots of great images and diagrams. So if you're, in that coaching, mentorship, protege field, you might say, this is a really exciting book, and I'm pleased to welcome Lori to our Career Talk podcast today. Lori, welcome to you.
Oh, it's an honor to be with you and have this chance to have a conversation about mentoring. Thanks, Mark.
Great, great, welcome. So, in addition to the book, Lori is the founder of Protege Power LLC, director of strategic partnerships for the Seattle-based Center for Mentoring Excellence.
Mhm.
She's a founding member of Gestures Comedy Improv. Okay, performing and hosting live comedy performances in her home market of Minneapolis, St. Paul. She's passionate, as you will learn in this podcast interview today, about combining her corporate experience, career development acumen, and professional comedy skill set to lift and inspire others. So, again, Lori, it's a real pleasure to have you on our podcast today.
Thanks, Mark.
So, really, what I wanted to start with today was I'm interested in certainly the book title, Protege Power. How did you come up with the title of this book?
Well, I worked for 2 decades in international banking, and my role was really around a positive work culture. So my team and I managed a portfolio of programs that would create employee engagement and foster inclusion. I mean, at one point we were operating across 38 countries. So
Sure.
we wanted everyone to play nice in the sandbox. And I also was involved with global philanthropy. So through the mentor program that my team and I operated, what I discovered just after a couple of years was that the mentoring relationships that truly bore fruit, that really took that mentee or protege to the next level that they desired, it had to do with the mentee being the driver. And so that's where the protege power comes from is it might seem counterintuitive because so many of us, when we have a mentor, formal or informal, it's often someone who's much more senior, more seasoned, and it would feel like in that arrangement that they're the boss and that they should be bossing the mentoring relationship. And so that
Right.
was kind of a stunner to see, wow, the savvy protege is taking ownership of the relationship. And it makes sense because when you're the protege or the mentee or the
Right.
coachee, you
Right.
stand to gain the most.
Yes, exactly right. And certainly, as we've seen with those out there in the industry that have started their careers in coaching, coaching is certainly evolved over the past 20, 25 years to now where it may be considered a mature market, but what is also happening is that now coaching has become a key tool by the leader to being able to not manage people or tell people what to do,
Mhm.
but to coach them through issues. And coaching is certainly all about the relationship between the coach and the coachee. Hopefully, the coachee will benefit right from the coach's experience, and it seems that the very same way here with being mentored.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah,
love both. I think there's definitely opportunities throughout our entire career to seek a mentor, which is commonly going to be someone helping you voluntarily out of goodwill, goodness of their heart, right?
yes,
Wanting to pay it forward in a sense. A coach
exactly.
is someone that you or your organization hires. And that can also bring tremendous, tremendous benefits. And then there's
Yeah.
this other space where there's conversation for the last decade plus around what is the role of a sponsor? And that's someone in your organization that knows your work well. And importantly, Mark, knows your character and that they are in a position, they have enough sway, influence that they could speak well of you and get you into a next opportunity to
Yes.
really back you up. So that's what a sponsor is. And you probably saw on the back of Protege Power, I have a series of supplemental essays. And one is, when do you need a sponsor versus a coach versus a mentor?
Yes.
What's the difference
Right.
between all of those?
Yes. Yeah, that's very good because all those coaches can be, without looking carefully, can often be synonymous, but they each have their strengths
Yeah.
of what they can offer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're each
great.
different. And a coach is commonly outside your organization. And so
Right.
this can be a benefit. They don't necessarily know your cast of characters, right? The people that surround you in the workplace. They're really fundamentally there for you, and they're going to come in commonly with a very robust toolkit. Whereas a mentor, they're not going to necessarily have all that additional training and education that a
Sure.
professional coach would have.
Hmm.
However, the benefit that the mentor's bringing, it's commonly someone in your industry and in your company. So they personally have context. So when you're bringing an issue, a big career dilemma to them, they
Right.
probably have supplemental understanding and perspectives that are going to really be helpful to you.
Great. Great. I have to ask you, part of your journey, your story is that you were a aspiring New York City actress, and within that realm, you transitioned, you pivoted to becoming a employee engagement executive, well, with Wells Fargo. Tell us about that. That has to be the ultimate career transition that I've heard of in quite a while.
It is a prospectively intriguing tale, but I guess it's in the category perhaps Mark of truth is stranger than fiction. So yes, I grew up on a dirt road on a lake in Minnesota, though always dreamed of racing off to New York City to pursue the spotlight, as it were. And I
Sure.
had many adventures out in New York, working in the music industry, worked in network television, acted on a soap opera. But this is a very volatile career path, right? As
Yeah.
anyone in the arts would know, or if you have a college friend or someone in your family that's pursued music or
Yes.
theater or acting. And I'm thinking of my big career pivot. It might be something along the lines of there's a wonderful Shakespeare quote from the play Twelfth Night where Malvolio, I believe it is, says, some people are born into greatness, some people achieve greatness, and some have greatness thrust upon them. I think that's what happened to me with financial services.
Yeah.
So I wasn't born into it. I wasn't trying to achieve banking, but then I had banking thrust upon me because I came back to Minnesota in a life transition with a
Sure.
very young infant, sadly going through a divorce, but life happens, right? And
Right.
I needed to land somewhere for the sake of my son and I, my budding household, that
Right.
was much more stable and reliable
Sure.
financially and work hours, right? Than
Hmm.
continuing in entertaining and in entertainment. And it was a friend who sort of informally mentored me. And she was succeeding in banking and getting an MBA. And she just thought it was really a great work environment. The bank at the time was called Norwest, a
Okay.
Minneapolis-based regional bank. So I got in there to world banking as a communications specialist. And as they
Okay.
say, the rest is history. It turned out to be a brilliant match, a fabulous fit for me, including, and I describe some of this in the book, I brought lots of creativity, lots of innovation, and bringing some of what I understood around the humanities and principles of theater into
Right.
the work that I was doing. And I think I like to imagine it was a good marriage, a good workplace marriage for 2 decades.
It seems to have been a very positive influence, not just on your life, but other lives as well. I mean, that is a great story.
Yeah.
And perhaps, we often hear about, especially in higher education, where our School of Business has bachelor's degrees and MBAs in accounting and finance and project management, right? Education is always seems to be about the hard skills, but most likely what we learned from your journey is that the soft skills, the empathy, the relationship building can often be much more powerful than the hard skills. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think particularly, and I imagine you're quite familiar with this, Mark, working in the international space means you're working in a cross-cultural space
Yes,
and having curiosity and empathy and being able to tamp down your own ego and
yes,
always this notion that your way is best. I truly found through my 2 decades in international banking that that's not how people that gravitate towards international business think. I think
right.
if you're in international business, you're curious and humble by nature. You are yearning to learn more about other cultures, other approaches to things. You're perhaps a bit more willing to listen and gain perspective and understanding from the other people around the table so that you can come out with the best possible options for everyone. And so I think, there might be other ways to land in that headspace, but certainly if you have studied literature, if you
Mhm.
acted in a play in junior high or high school, if you've studied music, you're well on your way, in my experience, to being a good interculturalist. And wow, is that vital in our business and trade space, is it not?
Yes, of course. And certainly any US based or Western based industry, whether it's, a Walmart, an Apple, an Exxon Mobil, whatever company you want to talk about, certainly, the traditional American views are helpful, but you learn so much more about how others in a more cross cultural form, you might say,
Yeah.
um, approach the same problems as we do, but offering their unique perspective. And certainly that is something I think US companies perhaps can improve on, is being able to really understand what international and global consumers are looking for, and being able to develop that understanding of different cultures.
Yeah. 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 It's like a good recipe. We all love
Yes,
to eat. Many of us enjoy cooking.
it is. It
And
is.
sometimes bringing in that right ingredient, that new vegetable that maybe isn't part of your background or heritage, but you discover it and you
Right.
add that to your cooking, and wow, it can just really create magic.
Yes, exactly right. And I think you certainly created a lot of magic in your work, with Wells Fargo and now Protege Power. What kind of tips would you suggest to others who are, looking to be coached or looking to be mentored, or being a protege? How should someone start that process?
Well, in my opinion, so I'm stating an opinion, I've never met an assessment that I didn't like. So I think whether it's through your college experience or in the workplace or something that you can seek out on your own, avail yourself to any opportunity to have an assessment tool applied to you. Common ones are the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator,
Mhm.
Gallup Strengths Finder. Another
Right.
one that we use in the DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion space, which is so illuminating, is
Right.
called the Intercultural Development Inventory. And
Mm.
that plots you on a continuum. There's just 5 parts of the continuum to help you see what's your common response to difference. Meaning, hey, I already explained, I grew up on a dirt road on a lake. How do I respond to someone who grew up in a high-rise building in an urban area? That's different than me, correct?
Right. Exactly.
Southern part of the United States, northern part of the United States. I mean, we could just go on and on, all the
Sure.
different flavors of difference. But when you get through those assessment tools, it's always going to bring to the surface one or more things about yourself that I find are worth inspection. And when
Hmm.
you have that growth around self-knowledge, what your
Yes.
preferences are at work. Do you like long-term projects? Hey, guess what? Not everybody does. Some
Right.
people need a little more instant gratification at work. Both modalities are fine. You're fine how you are, right? It's
Right.
just learning what are your preferences? Do you like a customer-facing job? Some people don't want that. I grew up with a carpenter father. He
Okay.
loved working outdoors. My mother was a surgical nurse, but she started out in a different part of nursing and landed in surgery. And she said, I enjoy it because of the intellectual challenge and the intellectual growth, right? That was important to her. My dad had started out an indoor job as a draftsman. He just couldn't stand it. He wanted to be working outdoors. He loved nature and being out in the elements, which is saying a lot in this climate because, as people know, our winters are pretty harsh. So
Yeah.
that's what I would say is do homework on yourself, know what your preferences are. And the reason it's important for seeking a mentor is because then it gives you a filter. Say if I'm in financial services and I'm a brand new manager and I think, wow, I don't, I'm not confident that my team members who are reporting to me that they really trust me. Am I doing a good job motivating them? Well, bing, bing, bing. Now that illuminates for you. You should seek out someone who you consider is successful at managing people in your company and industry. That could be a great mentor for you. Ask them, how did you create such positivity in your team that you retain talent? I
Right.
want to be that kind of manager.
Yeah. I think that's the kind of manager that we all want to work for, who, motivates us to do the best that we can do. And I think you hit upon a very good point, which is, part of leadership is, I think, knowing yourself first, because you can't know or love yourself first
Mm.
until and then you can help others. So you have to get to know yourself first. That's why all of those assessments you spoke of, I think, are certainly helpful in understanding, who we are, why we're here in this organization, how are we going to not only thrive but adapt as things happen, and things are happening every day. It seems around the world, good and bad. So it becomes certainly helpful to have someone who can help you, survive in the uncertainty, I guess, we have today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's such a great point. It's a simple lesson from evolution. So many of
Yeah.
us understood the lessons of evolution to be survival of the fittest. But as you
Right.
just pointed out, the research more seems to suggest it's survival based on adaptation.
Right.
How much are you willing to flex, continue to be that lifelong learner? I myself, I'm just finishing up an executive education program and I'm
Wow.
thrilled. And I had people say to me, what? You're in a good place. You wrote a book. Why are you going back to school?
Right. Yeah.
I said,
That,
because there's more to learn. I don't know everything. I'm confident that there are still things out there
oh,
vital,
there's so
vital
much to
for
learn.
me.
My wife always teases me about the many books that I have, but I tend to be a lifelong learner myself. So, perhaps it's never going to stop. You can't stop. You can't stop learning. Once you stop learning and growing, basically you're calling it quits. One thing I wanted to ask you before we close out is, if we're looking today at uh, the world of business for our students here in the School of Business, what kinds of advice would you offer students now who are, graduating within the next year, looking for internships, or perhaps a full-time job, which many of them
Mhm.
are looking for these days? What kind of career advice, through your experiences and your expertise, would you want to offer these students?
Well, I'm just going to pull one mark off the shelf that some of us heard from our grandparents, and that is just get in somewhere at a company that you admire, company and or industry in any role. Because once you're in, then you have got to, in many ways, the keys to the kingdom. When you are inside a big corporation or government agency or university,
Right.
you're going to have the first opportunity at any job openings that come up. So I think if we get overly fixated on just seeking a certain level of role or certain level of salary, we might be limiting ourselves. Where if you
Mhm.
just, the saying is get your foot in the door,
Right.
then a lot of things will open up to you, including and especially creating those all important relationships. So get in at a place you admire, an industry that you enjoy,
Sure.
start hustling, getting to know people. And if there's any opportunity to be on a volunteer committee, if they go out, 4 times a year and clean up a beach or a park or something, get on that team, get on that committee. You will
Right.
make great friendships, great relationships, and then you'll get even more insider information on great job opportunities that are on the horizon. And then you
Yeah.
can be first in.
And even though looking for work is so digitized now with Indeed.com and LinkedIn,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it still comes down to who you know,
Yeah.
right, and who will give you that reference or that boost
Mhm.
to allow you to get that job.
Yeah.
So it's still all about building relationships and networking. If we want to put a fine word of networking on that whole topic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so important. And other options outside your organization, of course, would be to join a Toastmasters club, which is public speaking, or Rotary International, people doing remarkable, helpful things in business and community. And you'll just
Yeah.
keep expanding your network of great people that you know. So you're hearing it from both Dean Robinson and myself. It's
We
really
got to
important
keep
and it's
pushing
fun.
forward, right? We got to
Yes,
keep pushing forward. Before we
yes.
close, I do want to I do want to show the book that we're talking about today, Protege Power. I love the title. I love the image of the briefcase on here, promotion, graduate school, increased responsibilities. Lori, it's been fabulous having you on Career Talk today. We've learned so much. I urge everyone to go out and wherever you find your books are sold.
Yep.
It's available, I believe, hardcover, paperback, audio.
Audio and Kindle, ebook.
Great.
Yep.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Lori, it
All
was a
right.
real pleasure to have you on Career Talk. We've learned so much already from you, and we look forward to seeing what you do next. Thanks for being a guest.
Thank you, Mark. My pleasure.
All right. Thanks again.